Hey, it's jrpg. Welcome back to this walkthrough of Final Fantasy VI. In the last episode, we finally found the Espers and brought them back with us to Thamasa to discuss peace with the Empire. Unfortunately, we realized too late that Kefka and the Emperor played us for fools from the beginning, and their betrayal led to General Leo's tragic demise. Kefka then slaughtered every last Esper that came through the now open sealed gate and headed there with their Magicite in tow, fully intending to get his hands on the goddess statues. If he and Gestalt succeed, they will become unimaginably powerful. It's up to us to stop them, so let's get going. But first, I'd like to stop back in Thamasa to talk to everyone. This woman says the Espers, are they all? And yes, sadly, they are. This kid says it hurts. I imagine he's injured from the battle. There's Interceptor, and let's check out General Leo's grave. General Leo. So sad to see him go. This guy says, curse the Empire, curse Kefka. And I'm with you on that, buddy. And let's talk to this interesting-looking fellow. He says, I am Gung-Ho, warrior extraordinaire from the town of Thamasa. First time I've been back in a while, and the village looks trashed. What on earth happened? Strago says, Gung-Ho? Gung-Ho replies, is that you, Strago? Have you come back to hunt Hedon? Gung-Ho says he'll never change. That's who he is. When you were younger, you hunted Hedon, the legendary monster, but you quit before you found it, he says expositionarily. Strago says, I didn't really quit. It's just that, well, the monster lives only on Ebbett's Rock, which has been submerged for some time. Gung-Ho replies, you never could give me an honest answer. What a buffoon. And he'll call us a buffoon as many times as we like. What a buffoon! And finally, we want to talk to the mayor. And he says, I can only take some comfort in the fact that there were so few casualties. And I suppose that's true, although there were a lot of Esper casualties, but he's just trying to see the bright side as best he can. Now, we have a short shopping list before we leave, because this is the best shop in the world. And so let's go ahead and buy a couple of Mystery Veils. We only have one, and we would like one for Realm and Celeste. They're going to be our pure spellcasters, so let's go ahead and get those. And then I want to buy one Thunder Rod, just because we don't have one. We have every other kind of rod, so let's go ahead and grab one. Why not? And that one, just like all the other ones, will cast Bolt 2, related to its element. A level 2 spell, I should say, and then it will break if used as an item in combat. Now, the enemy's on their way to the sealed gate, so why don't we stop wasting time and get after them? Setzer says the Empire's after the sealed gate. They're looking for some statues or something. Strago says, no! And look at that, they're already there. Gestalt says, oh, those silly Espers. To think they opened the gate themselves. The statues should be just ahead. If we can just get our hands on them, we'll have everything we ever dreamed of. Come quickly. And this is not good. Celeste says, what's wrong, Terra? Terra says, the island. The world is groaning in pain. Gestalt says, "Fwahaha! Now this is power. This and my Magicite, now nothing can stop me." Strago says the beginning of all magic. And Terra says those? Strago says it is said that they somehow neutralized each other's power, then sealed themselves away. If the three statues should ever be moved out of alignment, the resulting imbalance of power would rearrange the face of our planet. And Terra says, what? And now we could go find the floating continent immediately, but we're not going to do that just yet. Let's go ahead and lift off instead, because we have a couple of odds and ends to clear up before we get to the final confrontation there. So, let's first head to the town of ffVI, because we remember after the Imperial banquet, this town was liberated. And so let's check that out and see how the citizens feel. But first I want to get equipped up here. Let's make sure we put on that mystery veil. I kind of forgot to do that. And I'm a little tired of Realm leading the party, so let's put her at the bottom. And Locke in front. That looks better to me. All right. This guy says, welcome to ffVI. Now, I'm going to warn you right now that this is not very exciting. I just want to talk to everyone because it's an area that we couldn't previously visit. The little girl says there's nothing like being free. And that feels good, doesn't it? This guy doesn't have anything new to say, and I always feel bad for the NPCs that don't get any new dialogue. It's like no one ever tells them anything. This kid says, did you hear? Figaro Castle sank into the sand. You couldn't find it even if you knew where to look. Yeah, we already know that, buddy. Yep, nothing new here. And this guy is probably my favorite one. This town will go down fighting. Even with their Magitech armor, we'll make it tough on him. Yeah, he still has no idea. Like, you guys, he's still standing guard here. One of the main people I wanted to talk to, though, was Duncan's wife. And she says, peace has been restored, but my husband never returned. And that is sad indeed. Now, there's one kind of cool thing I want to show you here. And that is a visual glitch that I discovered. And let me show that to you right now. I'm gonna have to wait for this guy to come over here, so bear with me for just a moment. And when we talk to him, our head, or the upper part of our body, goes transparent. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying that I'm the first person in the world to discover this, like this has never been discovered before, but I didn't know about it, and I discovered it by accident, so it feels to me like I discovered it. So I guess what I'm saying is I discovered it. But, you know, don't get mad at me in the comments and give me a bunch of guff for claiming that I discovered something that probably has been seen before. Or, you know what? Do it. I don't care. This woman says, I'm so relieved the Empire's finally out of here. And the rich guy says, I'm so relieved the Empire's finally out of here. So it's a few rote expressions, but it's nice enough that at least most of the citizens are reacting. And I like the abandoned Magitech armor. I think that's kind of a cool touch. It just reminds you of what's happened here. And that's pretty much everything I want to do here. I did warn you it wasn't exciting, but I wanted to check it out anyway. Now for something slightly more exciting, we can visit Doma Castle, which once again was another one of those liberated places. And now there are a few treasures in here that we can pick up, so let's go ahead and do that. And man, do I love Cyan's theme. In here, we can find an ether in the treasure box and an elixir in the clock. And then a very long time ago, we saw a treasure box in Cyan's bedroom. I mean, it was a very emotional scene, but there's no way for that treasure to leave my memory, so inside is an X potion. And finally, there's one more treasure room to raid, and that's all the way on the ramparts this way. Then here we can find a Phoenix Down and the beads, which are the saddest relic in the game. They could have been cool. Let's check them out. So, it bumps your evade up by quite a bit. You can see here, if we put it on lock, he would have a 65% evade rate. But once again, evade doesn't work, so it just does absolutely nothing. It is easily the worst relic in the game because of that, and that's kind of sad. I have mixed feelings about games that can be updated now, where I think that finding glitches and bugs is one of the fun things about old games. It makes you feel like you really, really deeply understand the game, finding things like that out, and then when they get patched out, it's kind of sad. But in this instance, it would be nice to have a patch where it would fix something that is literally broken and doesn't do anything. And now, one more place I want to go is the town of Albrook, because we saw that shadow enveloping it, and I think this is pretty cool. A very neat touch indeed. The whole town is shrouded in darkness due to the floating continent. It's pretty wild. This guy says, how can an island float in the sky? This one says, people are disappearing, islands are flying. I have a bad feeling about this, and I would say that's a reasonable reaction to recent world events. And this man says, yeah, thanks to that flying island, this town was shrouded in darkness. And now there are very few other people with anything new to say. But the cafe is empty, and you could imagine people probably don't feel like partying right now. And everyone else still has the same things to say as before, so I think we can get out of here. And the very next thing we're going to do is head to the Veldt, sadly for me. But we're going to do that for a specific reason, and I'll explain why in just a moment. Now, we want to form a new party. Obviously, we want to grab Gao, but I'm going to take Celeste with us as well. And she says, I was one of the Empire's generals, but I still know evil when I see it. Let's go ahead and change up our party members, and let's grab Celeste, Gao, and we're going to bring Strago and Realm because we have a little bit of a project going with them where we're learning some new spells. And speaking of spells, let's go ahead and unequip everybody. And get Celeste suited up. And she's got her sweet Mystery Veil on, and honestly, I think I'd like to go with the white dress instead just to get her magic power to 45. That seems reasonable to me, but I'm a little worried about Celeste because she is our pure spellcaster, or at least one of them, and she doesn't know anything useful. She knows ice and fire, and that's not good. So we're working on Ice 2 with her, and I think we'll go ahead and finish the job. And the Veldt is a great place to do things like this because we won't get any XP, we'll just get magic points, so we won't miss out on any of those sweet, sweet level up bonuses that the Espers can give us. So we're kind of free to do whatever we want with Espers right now. And we're going to do exactly that. I'm going to have Gao learn some white magic, I think, just because his MP is fairly useless otherwise, so he makes a good candidate for a healer. And now, I want to have Realm still on Maudwin. I want to teach her that attack magic. And Strago, I'm going to have start learning Stop from Golem there. And the reason we're doing that is going to become apparent very soon. But I think it's important to hit the Veldt with an exit strategy. Otherwise, you could end up spending, you know, the rest of your life there. So the current plan is as follows. We want someone to learn the spell Stop and the spell Doom. Some more spells for Celeste because she is that pure spellcaster, and definitely finish the attack magic for Realm. The monsters we're looking for are the Zombone, because from that we can use the Zombone Rage to cast Condemned, which is a lore that Strago can learn, and the same thing with the Trapper for level 3 Muddle, although it's a lesser priority as it can be learned another way very soon, and then we would also like to get the Chimera to get that Aqua Rake Rage, because that's a useful spell for Gao to have as well. Once we achieve those goals, we will be all done, whether or not we actually end up getting those rages, but we'll see. If I feel like doing a little extra grinding, we'll learn a few extra spells. We'll see how it goes. Now, I'm going to largely cut this part out because I'm not going to make you sit here and watch all of this grinding, but there are a couple of things that I want to talk about, so when I run out of things to talk about, which I might never, we'll cut to when we're all done here. So the first thing I wanted to mention is that I hadn't quite finished talking about the sketch glitch and why I'm not going to be demonstrating it. As I mentioned, you can corrupt your save file, and I just don't want to do that on an actual cartridge. It is really, really cool though, so I will leave some links in the description if you want to see that happen, but I'm not going to personally demonstrate it for lots of reasons, but also, they did actually patch it out, so depending upon the version of the cartridge I have, it might not even work on this one. Either way, I'm just going to avoid it altogether, but there will be those links in the description. And then the second thing is that General Leo's death, way back in the day before there was reliable places to find information on the internet, there were a ton of rumors about how to get him back, and I think it's because people couldn't really emotionally accept his death. I think a bigger example of that is Eris in Final Fantasy VII, but General Leo was pretty traumatic for a lot of people as well, so I wanted to read you just one of the wild rumors from back then. I'll leave the link to the full list of them in the description, but I'm not going to read all of them because there will be spoilers involved with that. I will cut out the specific spoilers, but there are some maybe you could consider mild spoilers coming up as I read this, so feel free to skip ahead if you don't want to spoil anything, but here we go. So here is one of the things that they said you could do to revive General Leo. The rumor is as follows: go to a particular grinding spot and fight and win a quick 4,000 battles. After this is done, you will start getting into fights with gold dragons. Eventually, they will give you a resurrect potion, which will revive Leo. At this point, he will join your party. And then just one more is after you get a certain Esper and the screen is black, right before you see the words "the village of Kolingen," press A, B, X, Y, up, down, down, L, R, L, R, select, and then that will revive Leo. And that was the sort of thing that we as gamers had to put up with in the very early days of the internet. I thought you might enjoy that, so I hope you did, and I will see you at the end of this grinding session. All right, we are back. We've been here for a solid hour at least, and we have learned 37 new rages. We'll get to that in a moment, but we did manage to get Zambone and Chimera, so now we can cast Aqua Rake as Gao, and Zambone is going to give us access to the Condemned lore. So what I'm going to do is get in one more fight so I can show that. Anytime now, Velt. There we go. And it is, of course, Telstar, which is mildly dangerous. So let's go ahead and find that Zambone rage. And hopefully it will cast Condemned at some point. And then Strago will learn it. And what Condemned is the countdown spell you might remember from Final Fantasy IV. It is a much, much worse instant death spell. Where you have to wait for it to happen. Now all we gotta do is kill this thing. That being said, it is a lore that we can learn right now, and we're gonna go right ahead and do exactly that. And how I'm going to deal with this, I think, is instead of talking about 36 other rages in a row, there we go, we learned another lore, that's always nice. I'm just going to throw up a little thing on the screen that's going to list them off. None of them are interesting other than the ones that I talked about already. Now, we have one more thing to do, and that is take on the optional challenge boss. And that's going to be right over here, but we're going to have to use a different party configuration. But before I do that, I just want to show you how ham I went with magic. We didn't quite get there with Celeste, but I did learn the rages that I want, and we're just going to cut it off there. She does finally have Ice 2, and everybody else can cast level 2 spells, so that's pretty good. I'm fairly happy with that, but we're going to need a different party configuration to take this boss on, so let's go ahead and get that set up. And what we want are physical attackers, and I'll show you why in just a little bit. And we want Strago and Realm as well. Now let's go ahead and get everyone unequipped. And we're going to give both Edgar and Sabin the physical damage setup with regard to their relics. So let's get that done. We want a Hyper Wrist and the Atlas Armlet. And I may end up taking that hero ring off of Strago, but let's see what we got here. Now I've got another Hyper Wrist, but do I have anything else that increases physical damage? Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. We're gonna want running shoes, I think. Yeah, that works. And let's give him the hero ring. And then, for Realm, we don't need the sprint shoes right now, so I guess I'll just leave it. That should be fine. And we'll go ahead and put Espers on them, although it won't matter. just out of habit. Alright, let's go take this thing on. As we ever so slowly walk to the bow of the airship. Now, you do want to be careful here. We'll just hit liftoff. If you hit find the floating continent, you're kind of locked in there. Alright. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this legitimately first, and I'll just cut to when we meet it. Sometimes it takes a while. Okay, here he is. So, he's not going to take any actions, and as you can see, he is currently invisible. The reason for that is he's got the clear status, but this monster is no joke. Let's talk about him really quick. He's got 32,000 HP, absorbs every element, and he, in addition to Invis, has Float, Haste, Shell, and Safe. You can steal a Magicite from him as a rare steal. He will run away on the next turn if he has 1280 HP or less, and he will counter the final hit with Meteor, which will kill the person who landed the final blow, no question. Now, you might be thinking the easiest way to deal with this, of course, is Doom, and I will do that once, but I'm going to show you how to do it legitimately first. So, this is the reason we learned the Stop spell. And what we're going to do is cast Stop every turn with Strago, and then pound him with physical attacks from Edgar and Sabin, and then use Realm Sketch because we can learn a cool lore in this fight as well. And there he is, look at him, he's a huge blue behemoth. Alright, there goes the sketch. Oh, we do get the step mine. Perfect. That's the lore we can learn. And how that one works is the MP cost is your total minutes played divided by 30, and the damage is your total number of steps taken divided by 32. And that's just the way lores are. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is the reason that we're using these particular attacks with Sabin and Edgar, the drill and suplex, is that they ignore physical defense, because he also has a ton of defense. He's really, really hard to kill, and it's going to take us a while to work through all of this HP, but this is the quote-unquote legitimate way to do it. Another candidate for attack would be Science Dispatch. That's another defense-ignoring physical attack, but once again, he does absorb every single element, so physical attacks are the way to go to actually kill this thing. Now, one other thing I should mention is, now that we've gotten in a fight with this thing, it can appear on the belt, and that's pretty sweet because you can learn another lore from him by using the Intangir Rage, at which point he will use Pep Up, which is absolutely terrible. Pep Up is like Exploder, but for healing, so it sets your HP to 0 and then heals someone for that same amount. It's totally worthless, but it is yet another one that we can learn. Maybe at some point if we ever do actually run into this guy on the belt, which I sincerely doubt, but who knows? And one other thing you might be worried about in this fight is if he likes to reapply that clear status, isn't it a little bit of a risk that you might accidentally trigger the Sketch glitch? Well, this is a safe attack pattern, despite the fact that Sketch once in a while will use his sleep special, which will reapply the clear status, and the reason this is a safe attack pattern is because we're casting Stop every single turn. So if he does go invisible, the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to cast Stop on him. He won't ever get sketched while invisible using this particular pattern that I'm doing, if that makes sense. Now, I will say that given how long this is taking and the fact that he's stopped the whole time doesn't feel like you're beating him legitimately, but this is the only strategy that actually works without exploiting any bugs. He is just weak to Stop. That's the weakness that you have to exploit to defeat him. Now, Step Mine is a very good lore to have learned because it is pretty powerful as far as lores go. It just linearly gets better the more steps you take, and if you like using the belt at all, you're going to end up taking quite a few steps. Now, your minutes played are going to go up as well, but the point is that it is a very good way for Strago to actually have something that is non-elemental that can deal a strong amount of damage that isn't just a boring spell like everyone else can use, so I really like it. And the very final thing that I want to mention about this is that I did say that Intangir runs away if he's at 1280 HP or below. Now, I want to kill him here, but if he does run away, that is the only way you actually get any magic points as a reward for this fight, so it's okay no matter what happens, but I don't think he's going to. Oh! All right, well, we didn't actually manage to land the final blow, but that's okay. We learned everything we wanted. Now let's show it done with Doom. All right, here he is again, and we did have to bring one other party member. I would have loved to solo this with Celeste, but she will not survive the meteor. So let's go ahead and just cast Doom on him and see how that works. I haven't demonstrated the Invis Doom glitch, so here we go. This will work 100% of the time on something with invisible status. Unfortunately, Celeste is going to take a few meteors to the face, but she's going to be all right. Oh, look at that, it missed! That's amazing! All right, time to get out of here. With that out of the way, we are ready to take on the floating continent. So first, let's get our parties set up. Realm says, I know, let me draw their portraits. And let's go ahead and change party members. And what we're going to do is bring Terra, Strago, and Realm. Now, we're bringing Terra because Terra is part Esper, so this fight is important to her. We're bringing Strago because Strago knows the most about the statues, and he can learn several lores on the floating continent, and Realm should always be with Strago so she can annoy him. Now, if I wasn't recording this, I'd probably use a party with Sabin and Edgar because I think they're the most fun to play with, and you could also make an argument for bringing Locke because there are going to be some mildly interesting steals coming up, but this is what we're going to go with because I think it makes the most sense with regard to the plot. Now, let's get everybody unequipped. And let's go ahead and suit up, because this is going to be a fairly challenging section, and I think I would rather have the white dress on for that magic power. That looks good, and that looks good. Now let's do some relics. Terra, I would like to be wearing 2 pairs of earrings. There we go. Strago, I'm going to go ahead and give him the hero ring. In fact, I'm going to do earrings and the hero ring for him. And Realm, somebody needs to be wearing the sprint shoes, so let's just go ahead and put those on. Her magic power is high enough as it is. And we want to put on some Espers because we're back in the part of the game where we're actually gaining XP. Now let's go Stray for Terra to get her that magic power. We can go Phantom for Strago so that we can get that MP bonus on level up. And Realm definitely wants Zone Seek to get those magic power buffs. That's going to be sweet. All right. I think we are ready to take this thing on, so let's do it. Let's find the floating continent. Sensor says, quick, let's jump onto that thing. And there are only 3 allowed, of course, so let's bring the party that we got all set for this. And here we go. And look at them, they're flying around out there. This is not going to be easy. Uh-oh, the Imperial Air Force, IAF. We're surrounded. Let's give them a bloody lip. Let's do exactly that. And now we're going to have to face a series of 6 battles in a row in pincer formation with these, the Spitfire and Sky Armor. The Spitfires are the orange ones, and the Sky Armor are the yellow ones. Let's talk first about what they have in common. They both are weak to Bolt and Wind, and they have a Tincture as a common steal. As for the differences, the orange ones, the Spitfires, have 1400 HP, have an Elixir as a rare steal, you can win a Tincture 1/8 of the time, and they can use Absolute Zero, as you've already seen, a strong ice attack that hits the whole party, but they'll stop if they're the last alive and start using Diffuser, a Bolt Elemental attack, and they will attack less often. The Sky Armors, which are the yellow ones, have 900 HP and use Tech Laser and Backlash, which causes Mute, and will start using Missile if they are last alive. Now, what we're going to do to deal with these pincer formations is just throw Bolt 2 around as much as we possibly can. We're going to want to manage our MP a little bit, but as you've seen along the way, we have a ton of elixirs and ethers and stuff like that. Once again, I've mentioned this before, but your mileage may vary. You may have less than I do if you haven't been perfect up until now. But the point is that we don't really have to worry that much, but we do want to watch it and, to the best of our ability, try to switch off as much as we can. And one of the benefits of this section is that unlike the minecart ride section, we do get the opportunity to heal up between fights. So it's not really all that bad, but it can definitely be taxing, particularly if you don't know what you're getting into when you start this encounter. Or perhaps maybe you haven't spent time on the Veldt, maybe you haven't learned as many spells as I have, but you can take advantage of those weaknesses even if every single person in the party doesn't know these level 2 magic spells. I mean, it's certainly helpful to have, it's making this much easier for me, but once again, it can be done however you want to do it. Like, for example, if I were playing Edgar and Sabin in this section, I would have a very easy time dealing tons of physical or magic damage to groups of enemies, even in a pincer attack like we're in here, so however you want to construct your party is fine, but I would recommend making sure you're at least prepared in some way. Now we're just gonna top up a little bit here, and one thing I like to do in this section is run around the deck as much as I can. I think that this section does a really good job of making you feel like you're in an actual fight with the Imperial Air Force. Now, they do give you that acronym, the IAF, as though you would need to know that, but here's the thing. We're going to absolutely destroy all of them right now, and we will never see them again. And I'd like to imagine this fight as though a bunch of, like, normal pilots are trying to attack our airship, and we're just literally throwing lightning bolts from our hands off the sides of the deck. That would be difficult to deal with for even the most skilled pilot, right? Something curious approaches. And that is something curious indeed. We'll get a look at that in just a little bit. But I do really enjoy the fact that the IAF has allowed a giant floating pink monster to join in their aerial assault as though that's totally normal. That's just standard operating procedure for the Empire when it comes to defending their floating continent from an attacking airship. And speaking of the floating continent, me talking about this just reminded me of something that I wanted to mention while we were flying around the world visiting all those places before we headed there. And that is that Vector, the capital of the Empire, and the Imperial base are both abandoned, which might seem a little bit weird where the Empire is expanding their power and becoming ever stronger, and they just abandon their capital and their outpost, but the seat of power for the Empire is now just a floating continent, which would explain why they're defending it with the full might of their air force. Now we have just one more of these encounters to go, and then we can get to the boss gauntlet, which I am actually really looking forward to. And I don't want to harp on it too much, but I do want to say that I really enjoy this section a lot more than the minecart ride for many reasons, but first and foremost because it actually looks pretty good. The deck of the airship looks great. This battle screen looks great. The entirety of the minecart ride looks terrible, and the worst part about it is that they painstakingly hand-animated that whole section. But like I said when we played it, their ambition just got the better of them, and it didn't look very good. But look who it is. It's Ultros. Oh, I'm really looking forward to this now. We're doing okay on MP, but I think I do want to burn an ether here. Just to make sure we're ready to go with spells. We're going to want to cast a lot of spells for this encounter, and you'll see why in just a sec. No, really. This is our last battle. Trust me, Ultros says, and though we have no reason to trust him, he is actually telling the truth. This will be the final battle with Ultros. So let's talk about Ultros' final incarnation really quick. He's got 17,000 HP, a dried meat as a common steel, and for some reason is not weak to bolt anymore, but is weak to poison now, and is weak to fire like usual. And Ultros says, I lose again! Well, today I brought a pal. Mr. Chupon, come on down. Like he's on The Price is Right. And Chupon says, Funga! So Chupon has 10,000 HP, a dirk is a common steel, absorbs fire, and is weak to ice and water. Ultros says Mr. Chupon's taciturn, but terribly powerful. And if you don't know what the word taciturn means, because neither did I, it means someone who doesn't say much. So, you know, the opposite of me. Now, the way that Chupon and Ultros work together is that Chupon absorbs fire and Ultros is weak to fire, so it's very difficult to damage them at the same time, so we're just going to take them out sequentially, like so. And that will do it, and he will sneeze us all off the deck. But this part is not over. We have yet another boss battle to go. This is the Air Force. And like number 128, he has 3 parts you can target. I'm going to mess around casting defensive spells and cure spells here and whatnot, so I can talk about how this fight potentially would work. The main body of Air Force has 8,000 HP, has an elixir as a common steel, and he has the standard machine weaknesses to bolt and water, and you win the Zarina ring from him. The Serena Ring will apply Safe and Shell when HP is low, applies no stat bonuses, and is only usable by female characters. In other words, it's not great. Air Force won't attack you unless you killed a missile babe, at which point it will start using Diffuser and Tech Laser. If you kill the laser gun, Air Force will summon a spec, which behaves like Celeste's runic ability, where it will absorb any magic attacks you throw at it. The spec itself has 420 HP, but very high defense, so it can be tough to kill, but it can be done. After summoning the spec, the Air Force will start counting down from 6, after which it will hit you with Wave Cannon, which is similar to Bolt 3, so you really don't want that to happen. Now let's talk about the individual parts. The Missile Bay itself has 3000 HP, has a Debilitator tool as a rare steal, and appropriately uses Missile as an attack. Once it takes about 1500 damage, it will use Launcher, an attack that hits 8 times targeting random party members, with each hit halving your life total, so it can't actually kill anyone, but it can deal you a lot of damage. The Laser Gun has 3300 HP, has an X-Ether as a common steal, uses Atomic Ray and Tech Laser for its attacks, and once it gets down to 1764 HP, it will switch Atomic Ray to Diffuser. Now, all of that was a very long description of the battle script, but we're not going to worry about any of that, because do you remember when I said we were buying a Thunder Rod just because we didn't have one? Well, I lied. What we're actually going to do is Morph Terra and then use the Thunder Rod as an item to cast Bolt 2, which is going to one-shot the Air Force, and it's really cool, but let me tell you why it works before I do it. You might be thinking, couldn't you just cast Bolt 2? Isn't it the same thing? Well, there are a couple of things I forgot to mention about rods up until this point, the first of which is that they proc spells a third of the time, but the second thing is that when you use them as an item, and then they cast that level 2 magic and break, it is a magic defense ignoring attack, which is really, really powerful, lots more powerful than your standard spells. And because Morph will double the damage from it, it just becomes absolutely crazy. And I want to give a big shout out to one of my subscribers who goes by the name of the Overmind for suggesting this technique to me, because I think it's really amazing, and you're gonna see it coming up right here. So let's find that Thunder Rod. It's in here somewhere. Here we go. And one of the confusing things is that it multi-targets by default, but if you press right, it will single target. And you do need to single target just the center body to get the one-shot off, but here it comes, let's check it out. Oh yeah, it's a little hard to see, but that is straight 9's damage. And I just want to say thank you again to the Overmind. That is so cool, and I had never heard about this before. Oh baby, let's go. And here we are, we made it to the floating continent, and Kefka, Gestalt, and the statues are just ahead. Just ahead may be a little bit of an underestimate, but we can see somebody down on the ground there, and we will have to help them out next time, because I'm all out of time for today. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next Final Fantasy Friday.